But without any further ado, I do want to introduce our guest speaker this morning. Some of you may know him as in his current role as, I want to make sure I get it right, author, speaker, teacher, and advisor. Now, he has not trademarked any of those terms, but that's his terms as he describes himself in LinkedIn. It is a new journey for him. He'll explain it, I'm sure, a little bit. But he is essentially a guru of business thought. And all of you received in your gift bag a copy of his latest book. And it's been latest for, what, a year now, right? 2 years, maybe? A new one coming up soon? Yes? Okay. And it's called Restoring the Soul of Business. And I can tell you already, he will be signing copies because I have seen him actually sign 2 of them already. So there are some groupies here in the audience. So please, by all means, do take advantage of that while you can. Yes, I'm looking at you. Some of you, though, many of you may know him, though, from his 40-plus year career in what is now Publicis Groupe, right? Starting all the way back in Leo Burnett. And if you remember things like Starcom IP, which was for Starcom, which was the former media agency of Leo Burnett, that great unbundling that happened. Rishad was the guy behind the flag plant of digital, which before it was even a thing, really. And became iconic within Starcom and Starcom Media Vest Group and on into the realm of Publicis Groupe and then some, and still does some work for Publicis as well. That's a second sort of knowledge bank for him. I just know him as my boss for 10 years. He put up with me for a goodly amount of time with all kinds of crazy ideas. He said no to plenty of them, but he said yes to a couple of them, which was great. And as a mentor and as a friend, just hugely appreciative. Also appreciative that he's come to join us today. So here he is, without any further ado, the great Rishad Tobaccowala.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Great. Thank you for that kind introduction. So Tim is one of the many people who made sure that I did not get fired. Okay? So one of the biggest things that I tell people is smart people run a Ponzi scheme. And the Ponzi scheme they run is a talent Ponzi scheme. So you basically make the talent do the work, give them the credit, and take some of the credit, and they will do the same for their talent. And so you'll have this Ponzi scheme where you have world-class people working for world-class people, and the people on the top don't do much, which is what I ended up doing. But Tim was a pioneer in a lot of things, including the future of television, which is what he actually taught me. So with that being said, the plan is it's now in my watch 9:10, so I'm going to speak for about 25 minutes, and then Tim and I are going to have a Q&A, which he's going to moderate with you all, okay? And for those of you who may have heard me speak, I speak without notes, without slides, without video, and without audio. It's the lazy way out. But at the end of this, I will give you an address where you can find all my writings and everything I've basically said, completely free and accessible and constantly updated. Okay, so you don't have to worry about scribbling notes, it's there. So I'm going to speak about 4 topics in the next 25 minutes. The first is really about what in the world is going on in the world of visual engagement. I'll explain to you why I use the word visual engagement. Second is how do you manage change so it sucks less? Third is how do you actually think about leading your own organizations, whether it be from a sales orientation or from a thought leadership orientation or from just a change management orientation. And finally, how do each of you all remain on the cutting edge of what is about to happen, right? Without yourselves in any way feeling that you're falling behind. So those are the 4 things I'll cover in 25 minutes. So I'm going to start with the era of visual engagement. So what do I mean by the era of visual engagement? In 2006, when at that time, I think it was the Stockholm Media Vest Group, I put together a presentation which basically said we're not in the television business, we're in the era of visual engagement business. And I truly believe that that's what you all are. If you think narrowly, you will not actually understand both the opportunities or threats in a category. So let me give you an idea. My last job, my last full-time job, I was the chief strategist and growth officer for a 100,000 person company called Publicis, which allowed me to actually work around the world. And we had 7 of the 10 automobile OEMs as clients around the world. And I visited all 7 of them in the course of about 2 years. And not one of them in those years, and this was 7 years ago, 6 years ago, not one of them asked the following 3 questions. Is the future of automobiles about electric or about internal combustion? Is the future about software or is it about hardware? And is the future about ownership or accessibility? None of them, with all their strategists. All the wealth creation in the automobile category has come from Tesla and Uber. Nobody was benchmarking them. Today, among young people, the number 1, what they call television, is TikTok. Number 2 is YouTube. Number 3 is other streaming. And it goes down and down and down. You are all of those. No one says you can't stream. Nobody says you can't do any of those. But to a certain extent, you all have decided you want to be a container of the past. Nobody else has. And you might say, well, we are successful, we are local, we are established. What is local? Right? And I'll show you at the end, what is Adweek and Ad Age? Because I have a competitor to Ad Age and Adweek. Right? So they'll say, we are Ad Age and Adweek, and we reach marketing people. I say, I'm an unemployed author, and I reach marketing people. In fact, I reach more senior marketing people than they do. Because they've decided, I'm in the business of helping people. They're in the business of I don't know what. Right? So to a great extent, you have to think much more broader about your business. Because if you do, there's lots of opportunities. But you also then take advantage or pay attention to threats. And as was mentioned, the competitors are not here. Your big competitors and opportunities are outside. And there are lots of opportunities. There are opportunities because in a world where trust has broken down, your television stations and your personalities and your content have trust. Where AI ensures that 90% of all videos in social media today are fake. And by the end of next year, 99% will be fake and you won't be able to tell. Right? There is a certain opportunity that you'll have. But you've got to think differently than thinking about in the box. And I'll give you an example of how thinking differently in 2 different categories drives significant growth. So the first category is technology and software. And there is a company that did particularly well, very good sales, stock price remained the same. They were dominant. They were great. They changed their CEO because their stock price remained the same for 10 years. The new CEO came from inside and basically said, we're going to change 4 things. We're going to stop thinking that we're in this particular business when we're in another business. We keep defining ourselves as packaged software focused on this operating system. We are no longer that. Number 2, we keep thinking that the other software companies are our competitors. No, they are our partners. Okay? 3, we think we know the future. We don't. We shall learn about the future. And 4, we will stop competing internally. We will start collaborating internally. This gentleman was called Satya Nadella. He took over from Steve Ballmer. In the next few weeks, Microsoft will overtake Apple to be the most valuable company in the world. Its stock price has gone up 7-fold in 10 years. There is no more Windows operating division. Remember, Windows, 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 no Windows. I was recently with McDonald's, and they basically said, oh my God, that's like getting rid of Big Mac and fries. Okay? So, no Windows. Partner with Linux, they bought GitHub. Partner with OpenAI, they've put OpenAI technology into Bing. Right? No more stack ranking, and everybody has a growth mindset. They thought differently, it became a huge category. Second, in 2013, Maurice Levy and myself basically wrote a strategy for the Publicis Groupe, which basically said we're no longer in the advertising and communication business, we're in the marketing and business transformation business, which people thought was really silly, but whatever. We said that's what we are in. And what do we need to do to go get there? And over the next 7 or 8 years, we spent $10 billion buying companies, changing everything. We changed the way people got incented. We changed the way we did stuff. And WPP, which is a big competitor of ours, right? So here's the difference. 5 years ago, WPP's market cap was $18 billion, and ours was 12. Today, Publicis' market cap is $22 billion, and theirs is 9. We could buy them. They refuse to change. All they do is they merge companies. We bought Sapient, we bought Epsilon. We basically changed the way people got incented, the way people worked. We rethought what the competition was. Now, it doesn't mean it won't go out of business tomorrow, but there's a key way of looking at it differently. And I've lived through this, right? People said, why do we have to do this? It's so difficult, etc. Now they don't say that. And I said, do you want to be at the other place where everybody's losing jobs? Right? So that's a key thing. Okay. So that's the way to think about the future. Think much more broadly and optimistically. You know, I use the word a little bit different than Bill Gates, which is pragmatic enthusiasm. Okay? Pragmatic because we have to run business, but enthusiasm. And it can be done. And the reality of it is, if you don't do it, somebody will do it to you. Number 2, why do companies have a problem changing? As someone who's been involved in it, I will let you know that I'm anti-change, right? And people may have heard this. So I worked for the same 2 people for 25 years. And you probably have heard of both of them. One guy's called Maurice Levy, another guy's called Jack Lewis. Okay, I worked for those 2 guys for 25 years. When they both retired on me, I said, I gotta do something different, okay, which I did. I worked for the same company full-time for 37, and I've been an advisor for 5. My email works, my key card works, so people think I'm an employee, but I'm not, okay? I've lived in the same city because of its wonderful weather, Chicago, for 44. I met my wife 52 years ago when we were 12. You're looking at somebody who hates change. So when somebody comes to me and says change is good, I tell them I'm happy they can change, thank you very much. Why is it that when people come to you and say this is a great bottle of wine, they want to share it? This is a great restaurant, let's go together. But why is it when it comes down to change, they basically come to you and say change is good, do it, I'm leaving. Change sucks. I hate it. Because every time you change, especially you all who are senior and successful, you don't know what you're doing. You have to learn new things. You know, it's like learning biking. You fall down, graze your knee. So instead of changing, what we do is we use buzzword bingo. Disruption, platform, personalization. We use words, right? And we think that's going to be change. But change really is hard. And the reason it's hard is because you have to twist yourself into a new shape. You have to unlearn, and as well as you have to learn. And you might say, okay, someone who's anti-change, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, while I worked at the same company for 37 years, I kept changing jobs every 3 years. I had 11 different business cards at Publicis, right? So I was at Leo Burnett, Stockholm Media West Group. I was the chairman of Digitas, Razorfish, all of them. And each one of those was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Because what I learned is while change sucks, irrelevance is even worse. Okay, and that's the simple choice we have. Pain or death, right? This is not change is good, let's be cool about it. It's not easy. And it takes time and you have to basically do it, but it has to be done. So with that being said, there are 6 keys to change. 3 of them that you all should do for your companies, your teams, for your units, are have a strategy, and a strategy is future competitive advantage. Who will you be competing with for the next dollars? Who are your customers and what will they want? And against those future competitors and future customer needs, how will you win? That's 1. 2, you often require new skill sets, new tools, new technologies, which is, I call it M&A or upskilling. 3 is you often have to do a reorganization. And most companies do those 3, and then they put out a press release, and it never works. Because it was Michael Tyson, not Michael Tyson, it was actually Joe Louis who said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Every leadership team has an Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint, and a consultant's deck, but something messy called people get in the way. If you don't solve for the people issue, you solve for nothing. Why is it good for the people? So if it's not good for the people, why would somebody do it? And, so for instance, a lot of people say, do it. And someone says, why should I do it? It's good for the company. That's a bullshit idea. I'm not going to be in the company long. I don't own parts of the company. Or do it. If you don't do it, you'll get fired. So now you've just told me why this change is not good for me, not why it's good for me. So I said, like, why would anybody change? You can't say, look, I've got a deck and I got a plan. That's nothing. That's bullshit. And this is why companies fail, because they don't realize there's something squishy called people. So why is it good for people? My answer for most people is it'll make you more valuable and hireable outside if you learn these new skill sets. You can get a better job. You can make more money. You can do it here or you can do it outside, but you'll be more relevant. How's that? Is that a good reason? Okay, that's a good reason. That's one of many reasons I give, but that's a reason that works across all companies, okay? Next is, what's the incentive program? The reason Condé Nast has become a shell of itself is 10 years ago, I was at Condé Nast, and I told them their future competitor was Instagram. Right? Not Hearst, not Hachette, okay? Instagram. And they said, you're right. Let's do like multimedia. And at that time, someone who eventually went to Hearst, David Carey, was there. And he said, yeah, we'll buy everybody. It was iPod videos had come out. There was no iPhone yet. Okay, so it was a long time ago, even before 10 years ago. And then later on, I went back and I checked with their CEO how they were doing. They said, yeah, we've got multimedia, we got omnimedia. I said, okay, why is it that all the same people who were there before, 5 years ago, all have exactly the same jobs in the company? How do you promote people and how do you pay people? On magazine page sales. Done. You're going nowhere. Thank you very much. Nobody cares about a strategy. They care about their incentive plan. If you say you want to do one thing and you incent people to do the other thing, they're going to do the other thing. So I say, show me your incentive program, I'll show you your strategy. And by the way, most companies have to have 2 programs, because if you don't deliver today, you're going to be dead. But if you don't deliver tomorrow, you'll also be dead, right? So sometimes you have one group focusing on today, one group on tomorrow, or the way you allocate. But if everybody basically says, we want to go to tomorrow, but everyone's being paid for today, you're going to basically have today forever and ever and ever. And the last thing is training, which is how the hell do I learn this shit? All this new stuff everyone's talking about. So change, future. And last, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before we have Tim here, is the basic area of how do you lead today. One of the key things, as you probably recognize, is it's getting harder and harder to be a leader. And a leader is not the same as a boss. We have entered an age of de-bossification. Nobody wants a boss. Part of the reason why there's trouble on return to work, it's got nothing to do to return to office. It has nothing to do with the office. Okay, it has to do with people rejecting their bosses. Because people basically think a boss is someone who allocates, monitors, delegates, and measures. They don't want that. They want people who build, create, grow, guide. And by the way, those other things can be done by machines, and they will. So if that's your job, the machines come to get you. A machine can allocate, a machine can monitor, a machine can delegate, right? And we all have to learn the next generation of being leaders. And that's very, very important. And as a result, there are lots of different things leaders do, but one of the things leaders do is they create great cultures. If there was one thing that I did, was I created a culture that attracted people like Tim and kept them longer than they could have stayed before they went off and did other things. I had probably more talent work with me in the advertising business than anybody else has. Now, they all eventually left and went everywhere else, but almost no one went to a competitor, because I also told them, when you're ready, I'll actually guide you, right? And people ran the iTunes store, they're at Google, they've run Instagram, they've done all kinds of things. But the whole idea there was basically, this is what great cultures have. Number one, excellence. Cultures are about excellence. They're not being about people like blowing kisses at each other and being in a spa. That's a cuddle puddle. Nobody cares about that, okay? Excellence. Excellence of products and services, excellent of customer and client relationships, and excellent financial results, period, over and out. You can't have great cultures unless you're basically leading for excellence. Number two, growth mindset, which you saw from Satya Nadella, right? Which is, how do you keep growing? How do you keep growing? Number three is collaboration. And number four is open and honest communication. So the most popular chapter in my book for my two bosses, which were Maurice and Jack, is a chapter called The Turd on the Table, which is, in too many meetings, we sit around, there's something brown and moist in the middle of the table. We all pretend it's a brownie when it's a piece of shit, but nobody says so. And we don't call it a piece of shit because A, the boss will get angry, or you're an outsider and maybe it's not a piece of shit and everybody thinks it's a brownie, but it really still isn't, but you think, who knows? Or three, if you tell people it's a piece of shit, they'll make you clean it up and you've got too much work already, okay? So as a result, we all pretend that a piece of shit is a brownie, okay? And that's not good culture. That's like a bathroom, okay? So those are some of the things in culture. So if you have great communication, great collaboration, excellence mindset and growth mindset, excellence and growth mindset, you can be a great leader. And I've written about that, and I'll point you there. I'm going to end with the following things. So over the years, even when I was at Publicis, as I became more seasoned, it's a way of saying I grew older, okay? So I say seasoned, okay? I'm seasoned, spicy, okay, over time. Versus aged and withering away or whatever, okay? Or obsolete or whatever it's called. So I'm seasoned, okay. So with that being said, even when I was at Publicis, I began to realize that I was more seasoned / older than my most senior clients, okay? And they would ask me a very simple question. And the three questions they would ask me is, how do I keep my business model relevant? How do I make sure that my suppliers and partners are relevant? And then if you gave them enough alcohol, they would ask me a question, which was really a question about them. And that question was, after all these years, how do you still stay relevant? And by the way, 38 years ago, along with a lady called Jane Spittler, or 40 years ago, I built the case that there was going to be a new television form called cable. Yes. We brought in Ted Turner to convince Leo Burnett Media that there was something called cable television. 25 years ago, I launched the first digital agencies, right? I'm now consulting with big marketers on AI, and I've written about Web3. So their whole stuff is like, how the shit do you keep fooling people, right? And there's only 3 ways of doing it, and I'll leave you with that. And then, Tim, if you'd come up and we'll start chatting. The 3 things I would basically say are the following. Spend an hour a day learning. If you aren't learning, you're falling behind. Just start learning. And I'll show you how you can start learning, but spend an hour learning. And find the time. And if you tell me you aren't finding the time, you're just saying, I'm okay being obsolete. That's all you're saying, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is build a case once in a while for the exact opposite of what you're recommending. Think it from the other perspective, from a competitor's perspective. And 3, make, create, or build things once in a while. So let me give you an address which you can put on your phone. Okay, so if you open up your phones, or you can write it on a piece of paper, and if you type in Rishad, R-I-S-H-A-D, .substack, substack.com, so rishad.substack.com. Put in your email, it's completely free, and there's no data harvesting, affiliate marketing, promotions, or ads, nothing, it's completely free. It's what I write every Sunday. And you'll have access to 168 pieces of writing, including all these things about how to manage change so it sucks less and everything else. It's read by 30,000 executives and 500 CEOs. One person sitting at home on a Saturday and publishing on a Sunday reaches more senior people than Ad Age and Ad Week. So I eat my own dog food. Even though I worked in a 100,000 person company, I operate like a company of one. Thanks.
So please have a seat. Let's take a load off. Let's do that. So
see, I kept on time too.
We're saved on time. That's awesome. So all right, we have a lot of people in the television and advertising space, right? We could put quotes around those. Based on your travels and based on your experience from the agency world, right? What do you see as an outsider now / insider previous in the realm of television and advertising? I mean, you call it something quite different, but there are people now that are worried that television traditionally is in permanent decline.
So here's the thing. I basically believe that there'll be 2 signals you will be getting as local, primarily local, but other television. You'll get this crazy booster shot every 2 years called the elections, which will make you all think your business is doing okay. But underneath it, each year you'll find that your base is sinking. Because I truly believe that linear television is in secular decline. And that's the truth. I won't hide that. It's not going to be like falling off a cliff, but it happens to be in secular decline. And the only way around it is to reimagine it, to use the best of what it has and to reimagine it in different ways. So what I am basically seeing, and you're seeing this, so yesterday there were 2 announcements, and I didn't read the details, but I just read the summary. There was the Disney earnings, and there were the Warner Brothers Discovery earnings, right? So Disney earnings, basically, he wants to get rid of linear television. He basically says, my focus is Disney Plus / Hulu, the theme parks, and ESPN, which will be eventually streaming and along with Disney Plus and Hulu Plus. And I'm ready to sell ABC and everything else. So that's number 1. And he says, by the way, to make my numbers work, and if you see what's actually driving that company, is the theme parks. All theme park all the time. So he basically says, and I'm going to cut another $2 billion of costs, and his stock price went up 3.5%. WBD basically said, okay, we continue to have major problems with television, we're having problems with content, we're having problems everywhere, and their stock price declined by 20%. I just looked, in 2021, WBD stock, Warner Brothers Discovery stock was $80, and this morning it'll open at $10. So I said, don't ask for whom the bell tolls. Look at the goddamn numbers. See how people are allocating, see where people are going. And my whole thing is there's a sense of urgency. This is happening fast. You have to invent your business fast, right? A lot of people said, I'm going to be retired before this. You're not going to be retired in the next 12 months or 18 months. Like, I heard this retirement bullshit when I was like working, I was running companies at Publicis. And people said, why are you paying attention to this stupid thing called Twitter and Facebook and all of that nonsense? I said, I don't know, my clients might be interested. 3 years later, every one of my colleagues lost their jobs because clients basically said, we don't want these people, they have no clue where the future is going. So if nothing else, what I would basically say is broadly television, including local television, reimagined has a future. Currently, it's secular decline with some booster shots.
All right, I'm going to get some questions from the audience, but let me just ask one other one, though. So that's a pretty bold statement considering that you spent the majority of your Publicis years ensconced or tightly connected to the media buying operations, right? Starcom and all the things that came from that. How about marketers? Right? How are marketers, based on your experiences these days, looking at, let's say, television and media, right? An argument could be made that some of the functions that agencies historically have done may be perhaps a little misaligned perhaps with some of the stuff that you just talked about, right? Television, still media agency buying is still pretty much the revered big kahuna of most marketers' budgets. But if it's in decline, maybe marketers want a little bit more sophistication, other approaches to getting marketing done, maybe not just buying television ads.
So let me ask you all, truly go and ask the big marketers, including, and I'm not giving away any detailed information, but I'm just going to give you some brands. Let's look at packaged goods, okay? Procter & Gamble, Reckitt, right? Go check how much of their money is actually digital and how much of their money is television. Their digital budgets, the last I saw, were 50 to 70%. Okay, 50 to 70%. And then you have these unique one-off things like increasing prices of Super Bowl ads, right? The Super Bowl is not television, it's event marketing, where almost everything takes place outside of the Super Bowl, right? It's events, it's basically social media, it's a whole bunch of other stuff, and they play a whole bunch of things. And so the reality of it is, including when you all reimagine your business, why do you all want to force yourself into just being television, right? You can do a lot of things, including streaming, social, having your community, a lot of other things. But it'll take a little while, but eventually what marketers want is they do not want advertising, they want to sell shit, right? If they could avoid advertising, they would. This is what I keep trying to explain to people. Advertising is a tax that people have to pay, right? And if you can find ways for them to sell, this makes a lot more sense. And look at this. Look at the thing. Today, the strategic leaders, tell me in the last 10 years, okay, which marketer has gone on an offsite to ABC, CBS, or NBC? Zero. Yeah, Linda Yaccarino will do something at NBC to bring people there, but by choice, zero. Right? Where do they go? TikTok, Google, OpenAI. That's where everybody is going. And my thing is follow share of mind. Share of mind will eventually lead to share of wallet.
So that sounds like a lot of partnering and absorption of things around versus sticking it to your own bucket and doing it just better incrementally, no?
Yeah, because here's the stuff. The thing is, we are now, our clients, your clients, are no longer selling to people or consumers. I always tell clients, stop fixating on goddamn consumers, okay? When you look at consumers, you look at somebody like a cow. Somebody that you send messages to and you milk their udder, okay? I am not a goddamn cow, okay, to a certain extent. So to a great extent, we as you at home have godlike power. With what you can do with your mobile phone technology, you've godlike power. We are marketing to the gods, okay? We're marketing to people or we're marketing to gods. We're not marketing to consumers and customers. And if you start thinking from a people perspective, think differently. You don't even have to look at your children. You know, people say our children are different. You are different. Just think about the last time you bought things, how you did things. Did you like fixate on spot television? It was just one ingredient. But imagine if you could use that with other things and look at the benefits of smart TV. And by the way, people told me advertising was dead 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Agency business was horrible. All of us were scum of the earth, okay? All I know is, last I heard, Publicis is doing really well, okay? And we were scum of the earth, but we took it seriously and we said we don't like being scum of the earth. So let's be something different. So we're half scum of the earth now, not full scum, okay? But that's the thing. My whole stuff is when each of y'all are world class, and the thing I say is don't blame your company and don't blame your bosses. Okay? Don't. For the simple reason. If you are your company and you are your boss, and if you blame your company and blame your boss, here's what I basically believe. Change your boss or change your company. Okay? Change your boss or change your company. That's what I tell people. Like my whole stuff is when people will say like, I don't like Publicis, I said, don't worry, we'll get you a new boss, right? I don't like this particular unit, I'll get you a new unit. If you don't like any of us, then that's a problem. If you don't like any of our companies, that's a problem. But then that's my problem, which is I can't get talent to stay. You need to basically irritate the hell out of your management, right? Irritate the hell out of them because their whole stuff is if you think they're going to retire and leave you with the dredges, no thank you. Let them get out now, right? So you can take over. That's very simple. And by the way, that's happened across the board. Look at your goddamn clients. See who's running stuff. Go look at Publicis, right? If you look at all the Publicis top media buyers, guess who trained them 20 years ago? You're looking at them. All digital background. All digital background. All of them. Right? So your buyers have changed, your clients have changed, right? And we're staying the same. So my whole stuff is this is not for laughs. This is like careers. It's your future. It's your company. It's your children's education. Kick your boss if they come in the way. That's what I say.
All right, questions? Anybody? Got a couple of minutes here with the guru of future question. Go ahead. Let me get you the mic. Hold on.
I hereby name you chairman of Warner Brothers or Paramount. Okay, what's wrong with the strategies of those companies who've blown billions of dollars of valuation over the last 2 years? What would you do differently?
Okay, so first of all of those people are billionaires, and I'm like running around on planes, so they probably are much smarter than me. So with that being said, here's the three things that I think that they got wrong. The first is too many senior people hang around with senior people, and each of them basically became fixated on growth and size versus doing sensible things, okay? So among the things that they've done wrong is they got into too much debt, both of them, including, by the way, you know, Iger is great, but Iger's three most important things he did before he left as the first-time CEO were the three biggest strategic mistakes ever made. Nobody will talk about that. He overpaid $71 billion, which is 4 times what he paid for Pixar and Star Wars and Marvel for Fox. He got taken to the cleaners by Murdoch. That's number one. He bungled. I could have told him from outside. I know Bob Jacob. He bungled his succession, right? Completely bungled his succession. And third, he got the Disney Plus completely wrong. Okay, well, what they should do. Outside of that, it was fine. But nobody says that. Oh, he's come back. Look, nothing's happened. He's come back, right? He created the goddamn problem in the first place. Zaslav basically wants to build stuff, right? Among these things, they have the best brand name in the world, HBO. It's now Max. I'll tell you what all these leaders do. I'm telling you that, okay? These are people. They're not leaders. They're just people like you and me. Just like you and me, they're fallible. We make mistakes. I make mistakes every 15 seconds, okay? We're ego-driven. When you let ego and emotion become the driving factor in strategy, it's a problem. I'll give you an idea. The head of WPP ended up running a company called S4. When somebody asks me, what do you think Martin Sorrell is doing? I'll say it's going to be a failure. And they said, why? I said, because vengeance is not a strategy. Right? You'll see most of these people are not looking at the facts, right? And their advisors are so bad, right? They're pathetic. Most consulting companies are paid to make you feel good, right? My whole stuff is a consulting company comes and says you should replace yourself to their clients. That's what they should do. That's a real consulting company.
One more question. Anybody work for a consulting company? Want to respond to that?
You do.
Okay.
I work for a consulting company, my own.
Any other?
Which is a
yeah, go ahead.
thing.
Thank you. I appreciate what you said about, we're everything, local stations, streaming, digital. How do we break down the walls at the agency? Because that's where we get a lot of, well, those are the digital people, that's the digital team. I'm tasked with this bucket of linear money, which is shrinking, as you said. What's your advice on where do we go way up above? How do we break down some of those barriers that they have set up for us?
So three approaches there. So one approach is obviously while you're also working with the agencies, I strongly encourage people to work directly with clients, okay? Because clients are becoming much less siloed than the agencies are. And eventually agencies will follow clients. And I've been seeing clients and they're following. Now, a lot of agencies are not siloed or getting less siloed too, so that's one. The second is don't think about selling yourself as linear television or digital versions of linear television. Think about SAVE. So everything that I suggest to people is this. So I have an entire section on like how to sell better. So one of them is called SAVE. So whenever you go and talk to a client or a person you're selling to, think solution, right, versus inventory. What are you solving? What problem are you solving for them? So think solution. A is accessible. Make it easy to understand and easy to buy. V is value. Obviously offer them a value. And B, make it an experience that they like working with you, right? What I discovered over time is when you make people's life easy, right, they'll do stuff. Because you also have to recognize that most people at agencies are significantly overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. So sort of leave you with that. And the third is, the last one, besides that, I said save and think broadly, is to a great extent, keep thinking, besides going to clients and everything else, keep thinking about what you can uniquely do in a small way for them to have a first success story, right? So what I always basically do, and this is a pricing thing. I'll give you a very interesting pricing thing. I'll leave you with this. So in addition to the thing that I gave you, rishad.substack.com, if you go to my website, which is rishadtobaccowala.com, and then add on the cursor at the back, /100. So / is the sign below the question mark, 100. It will reveal a page which has the best of my writings and best of my thinking organized into 12 categories. Future, change, upgrading operating system, how to manage your career. That stuff is the best of everything I have, 100% free. And completely, constantly updated and curated. So people say, like, why are you giving all that shit away for free? So I said, the crack is for free, I sell the cocaine. Okay? And we don't understand that we have to give the crack away for free to get into the clients to start doing things. They get addicted and you sell cocaine. But we think about how we price the crack. Don't do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.